looks like about half an inch, maybe a half an inch came down. Now it's raining off. How you guys doing? We here are off to work, and I have jumped on a live stream to wing it. I'm winging it. I had a lot of little errands I needed to run yesterday, and so my time had been spent a little bit more focused on personal life. Nothing I'm really talking about going on that I have seen, right? Because every day there's something to be talked about in incremental steps of conversations, right? Because we can talk about every ongoing psyop happening right now ad nauseum, and all we're really doing is kind of picking up on here it is, the product of our mass psychosis and hypnosis, right? And this many years after COVID, someone's psych profile at this point works against them based on what their disposition towards going along with what everybody is going to act like they determined to be true, right? This other level of belief that is incredibly irreconcilable to people that are, rational, right? Like the rational person, I think in the Heideggerian sense of Dasein, the rational person lives in a certain kind of world, right? And I think a lot of people are not rational and think that they are, right? Because your rational faculties mean nothing without context. Your context is going to come from your objective input to your subjective reality, right? Your reality is subjective. You alone. Your reality is subjective. And the manner in which it becomes unique to you is based on how your perception of reality is informed, right? You can't dismiss objectivity and be a rational person. You don't have to be an objectivist. You don't have to, hold to objectivism. In fact, you shouldn't have an ism about it, right? It's just like there's a time for objective perception and there's a time for subjective perception of reality. No, Isaac, that is incorrect. People. It's not Democrat. It's people. And then people choose to be Democrats. Or they choose to be Republicans, or they choose to be non-voters, or they choose to be felons. All right? You have your own agency, and so do they. They may have sold their will, but they still have the agency and still have to take full responsibility. I see plenty of Republicans not taking responsibility. It's called QAnon, right? It's called neocon. Neither of these groups can take personal responsibility in different manners. There will be no mercy for politics. here, period. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. How long is the light green? Half a second? Some assholes honking in my ear? He's fucking driving a Tesla. Yeah, and not that the Tesla driver matters. People been acting like that way before Tesla. But when it's a Tesla, I get angry, right? It's also the same thing with like BMWs. If a BMW driver is acting up like that, I kind of blame the car. Not that it's the car's fault, but I'm just like, oh, a particular kind of person fucking drives a BMW and drives a BMW like that. At least around here. So yeah, the rational person is only rational because when things arise, they don't just stop and take time to look at what authority says about it and then rationalize why they're just going to go with what authority says. The rational person has the cognitive faculties to quickly go and do a informational quest, right? They know how to ask the right questions. They don't even have to ask anybody. They just ask themselves and then seek out where you're looking for it. One second. That's fine. All right. Right? And we only consider that kind of prior behavior of appealing to authority rational because it's often the answer to a question. Well, how did you rationalize that? Right? And then they name X, Y, and Z sources that they didn't actually personally look up, but they read some news article that said that they checked X, Y, and Z sources, and they just remembered what sources they said that there were. And then they think you're absurd because you know a thing or two about the sources that the other guy depended on to tell you this so-called news. Yeah, Tesla's driver are the new Prius drivers, but the problem is that we still have Prius drivers, which means it's getting worse. So the question is exactly how long from now do they want to pull these triggers on certain things, right? They need a certain amount of the upper tier classes and a handful of demographics to be on board with certain ideas to pull off whatever psyop as they go along. You know, they had that infrastructure in 2020 based on people's worldview attitudes about infectious diseases and such. Now they're trying to profile for next generation warfare and weaving this tale about potential dudes of non-Earth origin with ill intent towards Americans. It's just like, and then of course the rationalization is horseshit. Why? Because by and large they're ignoring anything up until like a decade ago. Like, they're only citing recent issues. They're not commenting, period, on anything that's happened between 1947 and the period of time that they're saying, that they're talking about in these hearings. Which tells you that it's a horseshit situation, because they're not going back and covering any of the pre-existing lingering grievances of why their official fucking story about UFOs didn't pan out, or their official answers about the called-in reports didn't pan out, right? And, you know, you got to remember, things like Project Blue Book were happening during a time of higher trust in the military as an institution and such, right? There was a completely different relationship between the early Pentagon and then, I'm not sure when that flip happened with that relationship. Probably during the course of either the Korean or the Vietnam War, I'd imagine, as the entirety of public opinion turned against them. And you're going to hear those that would be part of the Christian Reich going all anti-UFO culty, right? Going into Luciferian false angels as guys that have all, you know, as all these alleged entities of benevolent intention begin to actually become a reality or something, right? You know, because that's already the predominant conclusion. And they're half right is the problem. It's the half part that they're wrong about, which is fucking dangerous, because of how they will turn against themselves and turn against others, right? Because the threat of extraterrestrials that can't be stopped at our sky border only turns up the heat on cracking down on terrestrial aliens crossing the southern border in particular. And we go hardcore about that because of the threat from up there in the unconscious mind of the fearful. They need to get to this issue to get to that issue, right? How can I fucking defend my country against demonic aliens if I can't defend them against satanic drug cartels? So they're trying to fight the satanic drug cartels so it'll be easier to have a grip on the demonic aliens. And that's what's going on in the esoteric, shallow esoteric Christian's head. In the people of the book that maybe are now starting to look at their Bible under new eyes because it can't be helped anymore with the massive level of biblical scripture conversation happening on the internet by non-Christians and unofficial scholars. As well as some more official scholars. Then this gets put on top of new discoveries in archaeology and anthropology, making new linguistic connections, and all this other stuff about our history that takes the historicity of certain mythologies, because the Bible, like the Bach Saga, has a historical aspect to it, right? The one thing the Bach Saga does contextually is that where, you listen to a story and, you listen to the mythology, and, oh, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, who came from elsewhere, and we don't know anything more than that. And it's just like, dude, no way two guys with no mention of any fucking women of any sort were literally raised by wolves and then built civilization. The wolf didn't have the fucking... A wolf is not a five-fingered being. It's not sent by the holy people, as they say in some Native American cultures, right? The wolf is an allegory for someone of a wolven nature, of a women of a wolven nature, right? And it's largely it's deduced, if you will. It's deduced that it was largely the Etruscans that were nurturing, a handful of these men who came from. They're thinking now they had something to do with the Phoenicians. They're the Sea People's Federation, if you will. Hey, what's up, Theo? Right? And so then, these guys created a kingdom that turned into an empire that dominated the entire Mediterranean coastline, and a bit further for a long period of time. There's a whole lot of trad west fantasization about it was the good old days of pagans were on top, and we were the smart guys and the working hard useful guys, and we were of the citizenry and the leadership class, yada yada yada. Germany. Alright. Hails from Carpathia. This is different than the American Republic / Empire. It's like when they talk about America being an empire, it's not. America is the primary supplier to the United Nations as a imperial confederacy. That's what the United Nations is. It's an imperial confederacy. It's a confederacy-styled government for the world. And if it's going to be for such a large territory, it's officially an empire. So it's a confederate empire is what the United Nations is. It's a bit of a hot mess, but it's more free than being under a more uniformitarian model of governance for states that have states, right? Canada and Australia, they have states. The European Union has states within it, right? And the European Union is like an empire that is then under the Confederate Empire, right? And so you're seeing these are some of the complex civil orders of the world on levels that we never saw before the turn of the last century, right? This level of globalization. I mean, our global mind beforehand was under imperial thinking about things, right? We had finally had solid trade routes. Not immigration crossover, but trade routes, empire to empire, right? We're sitting there, various Asiatic countries are doing things with the West and so on and so forth, and then there's aspects of the Middle East or whatever. And then as our connectivity in various different ways grows, so too does the world actually shrink, right? It's just I think the people that are still living in the 70s and the 80s in their head, what's left of the boomers in authority, and the Gen Xers that didn't get it is that, like, like, broski, Alaska, Russia's right there, bro. They're not threatening us. We're threatening them because they're threatening somebody even further away from us than they are. We are threatening our geographical neighbor. We're threatening our geographical fucking neighbor over their dispute over lands that are way further away from us than their entire fucking, national borderline. And these people don't realize exactly how much the world has fucking shrunk. And under normal circumstances, Russia would not have a fucking hostile posture towards us. In this entire time that they have promised that Russia's a monster, the only thing Russia's ever, as far as, towards us, it ain't been nothing. It ain't been nothing but other people's fucking business. And, it's still part and parcel of why governments shouldn't exist, but that goes for America, not just Russia. But unfortunately, we're not capable of being self-organized outside of a system that we would have to call government, right? Because, me and other dudes out there, like, we could, but there's not enough of us to become the whole, like, it's just like all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people around me, right? Thousands of people in, even further around me. We'd all have to have a convergent agreement. We would have to have a convergent agreement, right? That then starves the government and feeds who we are as a new tribe. And it would have to be a whole lot real fast to preserve the integrity of who we are as a nation, which a nation doesn't have to have a government. However, an important prospective point that I always bring up is that I do believe that we do need, at this point, because of how much I've meditated on the idea and the fact of Heimdall being this one who sets the classes, the social order, right? And it's meditating on, is that necessary? Let me look at all the other qualities of Heimdall in context and ask why this one matters in there, and is it right? That does, has this god evolved, and it's understood different and perhaps better than it used to be, right? Because the intention of it should not be in any stretch of the imagination to force somebody into slavery to be a thrall, but to be a thrall, like, I'm looking at people here and now. It's like, sure, they're allowing themselves manipulation, and yeah, there's the comfort of a signal of evil that wants to comfort you into annihilating yourself slowly. Things like this, right? Just all the manners in which you are encouraged to do nothing, to give your power away, and to feel good about it, and to accept that nothing's gonna get better, and nothing you can do can change you on the inside. And certainly you think the science is backing this up, because nobody's gonna tell you to put down the poisonous food and put the body through rigorous amounts of training, right? You know, like nobody is finding these things. Like, they're looking for, like, you know, more money, you know, better living situation, good, as we all should be, as we all are, but they don't know who they are. They don't know who they can be, who they're supposed to be. You know, they may have an inkling of an idea of their ancestors, but, you know, predominantly, these guys are all in terrible, you know, these guys are all in terrible fucking trouble, and they're going to surrender. They're going to surrender to it, because to them, they got too much to lose. They got too much to lose, and they wouldn't know how to have things that are their own, right? You know, they're in the mindset that permits the Schwabian ethos of the no ownership to be liked, right? And so you know, this misery that they're hiding behind in this fake smile is living that Schwab's reality that you don't like. That's the horrible effing bottom line and truth, the horrid conclusion of it all. Ugh. So I am going to get myself set for work over here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you later.